Hello everyone, this is Yoel from Hebrew in Israel. This is the long-awaited video about Zechariah 12:10. I actually sent out a feeler in the past just to see if people will be interested in a video about this. I know that there have been other attempts to explain this verse by non-Hebrew speaking people who've studied biblical Hebrew. I just want to throw in my expertise on the subject, so to clarify this verse, I will say that a lot has been misunderstood just because of translations, and a lot has been misunderstood because of a lack of knowledge in grammar. So it's very, very important to understand that the point of this video is only the grammar. I'm not here to change anyone's theological opinions. A lot depends on these theological explanations of this verse, so just understand this is just grammar, nothing besides that. First of all, context. The verse itself is set in a prophecy about a war in Jerusalem where the nations attacked Jerusalem, and very similar to the prophecy in Ezekiel about the war of Gog and Magog, or Gog and Magog. And something happens, something changes during the war itself, and this is, the verse itself actually deals with that. So the context, remember, it's a war. So there are victims of this war, people who get killed, and I will already give you the spoiler, this verse actually deals with those people, and I'm going to explain why. Okay? So first of all, reading this verse out in Hebrew, and then I'll translate, and you can try to follow it if you have some knowledge in Hebrew. If not, I'm going to anyhow mark out where I'm reading and try to read as slow as I can, but you have to forgive me. I'm a Hebrew speaker, so I read a lot faster than English speakers, and I just hope that you'll be able to follow this. So it says, V'shafachti al bet David ve'al Yoshev Yerushalayim. Ruach chen v'tachanunim והביטו אליי את אשר דקרו וספדו עליו כמספד על היחיד והמר עליו כהמר על הבכור. Okay, it says here, translations usually say, and I will pull in the house of David and dwell in Jerusalem a spirit of kindness and mercy, and they will look unto me. The word they have in the translations usually say pierce, it should be stabbed, and they will lament over him. Very important thing. You notice I have here colors, and there's a reason for it. As a lament over the only son, okay, Hayachid is the only son, and weep over him or cry over him as crying over a firstborn. Okay? There's a lot of different grammatical things I can point out here, but the main ones I want to point out here is actually the ones in color. Why are they in color? Because these are the ones that actually create the different debates about what this verse actually means. Now, the word in blue is the word hibitu, which is to look or to gaze. Now, if you open up your BDB, you'll discover that sometimes verbs or even words have many different interpretations. That all has to do with context. Hebrew has less words, therefore words can mean different things at different situations. This is why some words would have even 15 different meanings. Specifically prepositions, there are certain prepositions that have over 30 different meanings, and it's not necessarily translations, it can be a meaning, but also in certain cases it will be a translation because English uses more words to describe things. So hibetu is from the root of nabat, nun bet tet, which is to look or to gaze. And an interesting thing about verbs, they can be used for more than one object, which is the main thing I want to allude to here. So the next word is elai, and elai is a preposition that means to me, onto me, to my direction. I'm guessing, and I think that people would agree, that this is the speaker here is God himself, that goes around and basically gives prophecy. And usually when we have in the first person, it usually means that it's God, unless we have a direct speech by the prophet himself. Then the next three words, et asher dakaro. Et is a common word, does not exist, doesn't really have translation in most cases, but it creates what's called a direct object. So it's a direct object marker. And asher is a pronoun, okay, which usually translates as the word which, and dakar, which means the one that they have stabbed, as I already mentioned, because pierced is nakav. It's a different root. Now, what is the point here? The point here is that what's really going on here, and there's even a way of proving it, not just the words and not just the explanation I'm about to give, but there's actually a way of proving it from the text itself, is there are actually two objects in this sentence. There are actually two elements in this sentence or in this verse that actually receive the looking or the gazing. And there's several things that have to be understood. There's a thing called a double accusative, and there's a thing called a collective. I'll start off with the collective. A collective is a case when we use a single to describe a plural, where we would talk about a collection of things, or collection of people, or collection of objects as a single. Okay, quite common in Hebrew, even in modern Hebrew. So there's nothing, at least for Hebrew speakers, there's nothing new about it. Then we have the concept of the double accusative. An accusative is a subject by itself. I'm not going to go into it. This is not a Hebrew lesson per se, but an accusative basically means something that receives the action and references back to the action. So basically, there are two objects receiving the action here. Now, how do I know this? Well, the first thing is that there actually is a mechanism, and you can look this up in grammar books if you want, in advanced grammar books, where there's this element where we have a preposition followed by the word et, so we actually have it here. This is the word, a preposition elai, to me, the word el plus el, not as God, but el as towards. It's very important to pay attention to the vowel points sometimes, and obviously to the meaning. And then we have another word, et, which is basically another preposition. And what happens here is, because we have the word et immediately after the first preposition, the rule is that this is actually another accusative, meaning another object. Okay, and this is how text usually defines. Now, in English, usually would say, well, they would look unto me and the one that they have pierced, or the one that they have stabbed, as we've corrected. And in biblical Hebrew and modern Hebrew, it's possible to say, V'hibitu elai ve'et asher dakaru. That will make it even clearer. But because the Bible tends to omit words, and this is a common thing, it doesn't use this extra vav as function as the word and, which means it can look obscure. Now, when you sit down and translate, you obviously would translate, and they're looking to be the one that they have stabbed, which denotes a certain meaning. But when we understand this correctly, and I have to remember that sometimes the language of Zechariah specifically is kind of difficult. I mean, Zechariah, half the time, when you look at the beginning of the book, he doesn't really know half the time what he's being told. So it's not strange that the prophecy might be slightly, the language might be slightly difficult. Now, what does this mean? It means that they look unto probably God, and down to the victims of the war. This completely changes certain meanings that people have been trying to put into this text. And I hope I haven't shocked anyone, but this is probably what it means. Now, here's the proof. The proof is in this word, alav. If Elai was et asher dakaru, this would have been alai, not alav. The alav turns it into onto him. Now, this references back to one of the objects mentioned in the first clause, which is the clause we have here. Therefore, alav goes back to another object, and it would not be alai, which means that asher dakaru as a completely different object. Okay? I hope this clarifies some stuff. If there are any scholars out there, anyone that has something they want to say about this explanation, I'm open to hearing what they have to say. But please don't turn it into a debate. Okay? This is not polemics. The point of Hebrew in Israel is to learn, to teach, to come from a mutual understanding of the Bible and the Torah together as believers in the Bible and the Torah. And I hope that this benefits everyone. But again, don't be scared by what I said here. Just look at things by yourself as well. You don't have to take my word for anything. You can disagree with me completely, but this is probably what this verse actually means. And it took me a very long time to actually decide to make the video, because I know this is kind of a controversial verse, and I also understand that on the other hand, people do want to hear these explanations. So again, if there's anyone who wants to disagree, just do it respectfully. There's no point in creating debates for no reason. And I just hope everyone also enjoys the stuff I put on the Facebook page. Hopefully soon there'll be a website. We're working on that. And if there's any questions people have, you know where to find me on the Facebook page. There's also an email address which is published on the Facebook page. And there's also the programs I do on Truth to You, and I hope they're beneficial for everyone. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'm waiting for people's comments. Thank you.